Okay, so I want to show you how to use Photoshop in order to um, add some textures to your text, and by doing that, actually using the textures to mask out sections of that text, which is a little different from the last video that we watched, where I was using the the shape of the text in order to mask out visibility of an image so that it was sort of inset within the text. In this scenario, I'm going to use a selection in order to mask out sections of the typeface itself. So let's look at it like this. Essentially, I'm going to I laid out some type, right? The word progress sort of split on two lines so that I've got some nice bold shapes here, and I'm going to use a little bit of a trick here. I'm going to show you. So if I had everything set up in a folder, right, as a group, um, I'm able to actually use a selection to add a mask to that group. So in this case, I actually want the image of the cloud to not be masked out. I want it to be completely visible all the time. So I just wanted to show you this, that once you have something in a group, you can easily pull it out by just grabbing it, and you can see that it's no longer sort of like tabbed in there, right? Like shift to the right there to indicate that it's part of that group. Okay, so in order to add a mask to that group, I can do two ways. Just like I showed in the video before, you can hold Command and click on the thumbnail of the text so that I had a selection there. And then if I went up here, instead of clicking on one of the layers, I clicked on the layer group to add my mask. It actually applies directly um, to that group, right? Which is kind of cool. Because then if I hold Command and click on this thumbnail, I can use Command Delete in order to drop my background, to fill it with my background color. Command Delete. And although it doesn't visibly look different, I want to show you that it is indeed different, because if I was to change this to say red, right, you should be able um, to see this, right? So all I have is a mask saying anything within this text is hidden, right? Or like, not hidden, but visible. And the reason that's important is, look what happens if I grab the image of the cloud and bring it back into the group and release it. You now see that only it's only visible, the texture of that cloud, within um, what the visible parts of that mask. And just so we can see that it did that, if I hold down Shift and click on the mask here, you can see that's what the image is, and then that's where it exists, only being visible in the mask of that group. And the reason I sort of do things like this is, if it's in a group, maybe I've got a bunch of layers that I'm going to be adding in this to do a lot to it. A lot easier to put things within groups, and then I know that anything that should be within the confines of the shape of those letters will be in this group here, right? So if I was to add another image, I go into like place embedded, and let's say for the sake of it, I'm going to grab this cracked like mud or whatever it is. And I was to add that, rotate it. All I'm doing is using my move tool, and just so we are clear what I'm doing there, place embedded, go to the file, select it, place, press place, put it in there, and then before I press return, or try to, I can move it, or I can transform it in ways that maybe fit what I need to do, right? So if I hold down Option and I click out and I drag, it's expanding it from the center point. Press return, it's set it. And so the reason that's important, see, it's outside of my group. But let's say that I put it within my group, and now it takes the form of the mask, right? But I also want to show you something else. It's perhaps, that's sort of the same thing as we did before. But if I hold down Shift and click on this mask right here, click, and I'm on the layer that is the cracks, right? I want to use the black cracks to hide more of this text. So I can always grab my trusty magic wand, and I can look up here and make sure that the contiguous is off. Contiguous means that if you select on a type or like a color sample, right, it will only make a selection if the same color pixel or something close enough within that tolerance range here is selected. So let's take that from point sample up to like maybe 5 by 5, and tolerance at 20 or something like that's fine. But the main thing I want to do is I want to turn that contiguous off, so that instead of each one of those black pixels, because I just want to get the cracks, so if I take that off, now they don't have to be touching. I just have to get close and click that, and you can see I've basically selected all of the crack. Now I can always add to the selection and just make sure, get in here and see where it sort of missed, and just click a little bit like that, and it'll fill that up nice and give me a little more of a selection there. All right, that's nice. So now, using that that image in order to create this sort of extra texture, I can hold down Shift and click on that thumbnail, and then as part of that mask, I can always Option delete to dump my foreground, which in this case is black, and now it hides it. Okay, so again, if I want to, all I'm doing now is I'm adding a mask to the layer in which it has all of my text. It has extra images in which I want, like maybe I want to add a secondary image in there. I don't know what the cloud has to do with progress, but maybe that's the magic of progress. As you make it, you make a little at a time each day. You don't realize it, and then magic, poof, you're like, where you want to be. So at any rate, that's the little tutorial, and using the same process as in the other video, we're just using it a little bit different. And actually, you know what? Before I get rid of this, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to hold down Command, and I'm going to click on this thumbnail. And I'm going to hold down Shift, and then click on the thumbnail. So I've loaded the selection from the thumbnail, holding down Shift just to hide it, just to indicate something to you. With that selection, I can always add a mask directly to that text. It doesn't have to be to the group. I just wanted to show you that not only can you do it to a layer, but you can also add that mask to a group, right? And so then once I have that selection, two different ways I can add it. If I want to also add it to the first half of that word, I can hold down Option and then click and drag, and it will copy that mask to the next layer. That's Option, which click on the thumbnail, hold down Option, and drag it, right? Command Z just to go back a step, Or I can always hit Command, click on that, and then add a mask. I just think the option and drag in this case is easier because you're just copying it from one layer to the next. But pretty cool distress type with almost zero work. Just a couple. We just had to find the appropriate texture, sample some of the color in it using the magic wand, and then easy enough. Boom, done.